Hello and welcome to a new episode of The Check-In, which is the little daily update on how frameworkers are doing all around the world, or at least all around the country. Today we have Andrew Hardy from Felan Films. That you're the first one that is not in mainland Australia. You're in Tasmania, right?
No, yes. I am in Tassie. In Tasmania, it's pretty wet and wild outside. It's like, the weather has not been great. Originally coming down here, I was like, quarantine on the parents, close to 1,000-acre farm is going to be way better than our Collingwood apartment. But
100%.
It's been raining, so we've been inside anyway. But
well, like you would have been stuck anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
Like Collingwood with sun, it's not very different than Tasmania with rain. Actually,
Yeah.
I think that Tasmania, if we have to like make a list of the top 5 spots to like go and isolate to, probably one of the top 5s for sure.
I know. I think until like a couple of weeks ago, it felt like it wasn't even happening here. It was like Tassie was just like this untouched, like, you'd go into the local town here, which is quiet on a good day anyway, COVID or not.
Yeah.
And it's like we go in there and it was just like business as usual. It's totally fine. And then, about a week or 2 weeks ago, I think it was about a week ago, actually, there was a bunch of cases reported at the local hospital, which is like an hour away from here. And so everything's gotten a lot tighter since then. They shut down the whole hospital. So now if anyone gets sick or injured, you have to travel from where I am. It's about 2 hours to the next hospital. So like they're taking it pretty seriously on the coast, because I think even though Tassie only has like 200 cases or something like that, I think they're really tightening up, because the health system is not like, we don't have an Alfred hospital like Melbourne,
Yeah.
It's like they're much smaller country rural hospitals. And, I don't know, there's probably 10 ventilators for the whole state, I don't know. It's much smaller. So
yeah, well, like it's interesting to see how like the world reacts differently to what is happening in different places, like due to different conditions. As you said, like Tasmania is like smaller, it's an island. So like when you have no mobility towards mainland Australia, then all of a sudden like it becomes a big problem, because normally you could, I don't know, jump on a flight, like, or being helicoptered somewhere. I don't know how it works. I've never gotten sick in my life in Australia, so it's good. But I understand that like it brings new challenges having to be like in such a small place and all that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting times. I mean, they've shut down, like there's no more ferry, like well, it's not really a ferry, it's a big boat, the Spirit of Tasmania, that's not running anymore between Melbourne and Tassie. And
yeah,
I think
Australia
there's like 2 or 3 flights a week. So
Australia hasn't been like very lucky with coronavirus and boats in general.
No, I would not be able to staying away from the boats.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel like it's 2 words that you don't want to say together at this time.
Yeah,
with all of what happened to Sydney and all of that, but sure. So how is it to like slow down and get back into like your hometown and with your parents and everything?
Oh man, it's been really good to be home for a while. I think we've been down here for nearly a month now. I came down originally to shoot, to photograph like a friend's wedding from high school. And I was like, so I flew down for that. And the moment I actually got onto the flight going from Melbourne to Launceston, and the bride called me while I was just buckling into my seat. She's like, "Hey, wedding's cancelled." And I'm like,
wow,
awesome. Well, I'm coming anyway. So, but luckily, my folks live down here, so it was all right. We could kind of like, hold up on the farm for a little bit and just relax a little bit. But I kind of actually haven't been relaxing that much. I've kind of taken it as a bit of all my client work is gone. And so now I have all this time to actually do all this like personal projects and like all these projects that I really want to do myself.
Yes.
Whereas normally I don't really have that time. I'm kind of like flat out doing client stuff. And then, once I'm done with that, I kind of don't really have the energy. So I'm just like,
yeah, well,
filling my plate with new things right now that I wouldn't normally get to do.
How are you feeling your focus levels are? Because one thing that I've been struggling with, and I'm just starting to pinpoint it, is the fact that I want to work on personal projects. I want to create new things. I want to take the time to improve what I already have. But at the same time, I'm finding such impossible thing to focus, to grab onto a thought or a project or anything and just stick to it. I keep on going like, I'm going to do something. And then the first challenge or roadblock that I find, I kind of go like, oh no, I'm frustrated. Let's try something different. And so I keep on skipping between things. I have 20 open things and none of which are going anywhere where I would want them to.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, because you seem to have been so productive, seeing what you've done over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Like, you created a course of filmmaking, you put it together, you put the website together, created a platform to sell it and for people to like use it. And you've done personal work. You've asked for other frame workers to send you things so you can shoot video for them. Like, it feels like you're really like on top of your game there.
It felt really good to kind of like, yeah, I guess like I was saying, I felt like I've opened up all this creative space, or like space to actually do new stuff, because I was kind of like, I felt really overloaded with client work for a while. So now that I'm working on my own stuff, it felt really easy to segment things and kind of be like, okay, this is my list for like whatever, you know? And so I just write lots of lists, really. It's like, and just break things up. So I've kind of got my list of like, I'm learning a whole bunch of new stuff on like, I guess most of it's been from necessity, because I was like, well, I don't want my business to fail, so I better figure out how to diversify my income and like, you know, create some online assets and do an online school, which I've been thinking about doing for a long time anyway. So I, you know, just knuckled down and started getting that stuff done.
Yeah.
Started shooting these free ads to kind of like help out some frameworkers, and then like learning a whole bunch of new stuff myself. But just writing lists has been just huge for me, and breaking it down and being like, giving yourself really achievable things each day. I'd be like, I'm going to do one 6 to 12 minute lesson on my course that I'm learning from. And then I would try and shoot a little bit of a piece for the framework ads. And then I would try and, you know, I would have my other list would be like, edit one of the parts of my course. So I'm just breaking it all up into like really bite-sized chunks. And if I get 3 things done or 4 things done in a day, then I feel like I've really accomplished something.
Yeah. And I feel like there is some readjusting that we kind of have to do, especially like hyper productive people. We're like myself and you and a lot of other frameworkers. We want to achieve, and like we're hungry for like ticking those boxes. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where some of the frustration comes from not being able to tick some of those boxes. And then you kind of have to look at yourself in the mirror and go like, hey, if you've done 3 things, as you said today, whether they were successful or not, you've done a good deal of things. In this situation, you're making the best out of what you can.
I think totally. This is my secret. This right here.
Andy's big book of big ideas.
Yeah. So this is my big book of big ideas.
I started laughing because I did not realize it was the cover of a book. I thought it was like a page, and I'm like, that seems pretty empty. No, it's the cover of a book of ideas.
The inside is like, you know, it's all my stuff. So basically, you know, and I just write these lists, and this is just like, you know, this is kind of like my week to do, but then I'm just like ticking stuff off down the list, you know, and I just do a couple, try and do a couple every day. And then, you know, a couple of days later, I'll probably write a new list here, which is just like updated from like new things I've thought of. And then I'll try and like structure them to be like, what's most important for me to do right now? Or not even what's most important. I try and like stagger the lists into like, what is going to be most effective. So like early on from being here, it was like, what can I do? Okay, I'm going to release a LUT pack, which is for like, it's like an asset for filmmakers to use. It's like presets for photos, you know, like color presets. So I was like, okay, I already have all these presets that I've been building over the last couple of years for my films.
For your own work and your own like look and style.
Totally. Yeah. So like I put them together into a pack, and I recorded some training on it and like how to use them and teaching people how to color grade. And like, that was how I could be most effective at the time, to get something out into the world that, you know, I could do some marketing behind, throw some ad spend on it on Facebook ads, and like try and make some money back from that. And so that was my initial thing, was like, that's going to be that's probably the quickest, most effective thing that I can do. And then what's next? I was like, okay, I can't record my whole like mirrorless filmmaking course in like a week, but in like a week or 2 weeks, I could record my iPhone filmmaker course. So I went ahead and did that. And I'm just kind of like going down the list of like, you know, length and effectiveness.
Yeah. Which, by the way, like I didn't want to interrupt you there, but we've talked about this, and I bought your iPhone 101 filmmaking course, and it's really good. So like for
Thanks, man.
everyone that is listening to this, if you want to learn a little bit more about like how to use your iPhone to get like some very, very good results, like your course, I think like the way you structured it and the way you put it together, it's so accessible
Mm,
and it's so simple and it doesn't go into like crazy nitpicky details and stuff. It's just like, hey, this is how you can use your what you have to the best of your extent,
yeah.
especially if you start from a place where you don't know much about it, which is amazing. Like kudos to you for like creating such a thing.
Awesome. Thanks, man. It's the whole idea behind doing that was like, I mean, it's been really, it's a big passion of mine, like teaching people how to like create films or use their camera in a way that's like, you know, new and exciting for them. And I've been doing that. Like I've been teaching filmmaking at a creative camp in the States for the past 5 years
Yeah.
now at Field Trip, which has been amazing. But I wanted to take some of what I know with like DSLR filmmaking or mirrorless filmmaking and apply it to something that was more accessible for like small business owners.
Yeah.
Like that was my whole idea, was like, okay, holy crap, like COVID-19 is happening. All of my work is gone. Like all of these clients that were going to be like investing in their brand and creating visual content, we either no longer could do it because it was like, you know, too many people at a shoot.
Yeah.
Like I was actually documenting like a festival or something like that. And then I thought about all the smaller brands and businesses out there. And I was like, whoa, these guys are really going to be hit hard. Just like my small team has been like hit really hard from this as well. And then thinking, what can I do to empower them? So this course was kind of like an idea where I was like, okay, people have iPhones. They can like create video content and like start sharing their ideas with people just by like, you know, learning how to create it using your iPhone.
And like, I feel you and I are very much on the same page here when it comes to sharing knowledge. As you said, like you've been teaching it like field trips, and for a few years, I've been teaching myself in different places. And I don't know, do you ever find yourself clashing with the older generation of filmmakers and photographers that like think that knowledge is like a treasure? It's something that you have to keep to get an edge on your competition.
Yeah.
Competitors, well, whatever, like second language card played right there. But what I mean is, I don't know, I feel like sharing things with others, especially like in the way you did. So like focusing on, hey, you're a small business owner, you're a small content creator. You want to be, I want to empower you to be able to be independent and to produce things so you can keep your business going and like you can keep on, I don't know, getting in touch with your customers. That doesn't mean that what they're going to produce themselves is going to replace the moment they call you.
Yeah.
It's such a different thing. So you're not
totally
losing clients by empowering them to do things themselves. It's a different thing. You're actually like making, it's like you're holding hands and making everyone grow together. Instead of going like, hey, look at me, I have cameras, I am the god of video, you know, like it's so different.
Totally. I think for sure. And that made me think of this quote that I read or heard recently. It was like, knowledge depreciates when it's not shared. And I always try and think of that now when I'm like, if I learn something new, or if I'm like, you know, something pops into my sphere where I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. And like, you know, I think that, like you should share it as you, like I'm trying to share more and more. And that's what I'm compiling all this stuff into my mirrorless filmmaker course, which is going to be like super affordable, when basically I'm teaching people how to like add video to their business and like make money from it, you know? So it's going to be like a super affordable thing. And I guess when you look at like, say the iPhone course or whatever, someone said to me like, oh, like, so basically you're kind of doing yourself out of a job by like, you know, teaching your clients how to do it themselves. And it's like, well, like some jobs maybe, but like, I don't know if I really want to be doing a lot of those. Like if I want to be jumping out to like 7 different businesses every single day, shooting like 1-minute pieces of like Instagram content anyway. But then also I think the big thing was, I don't think that would happen. I think that like by showing them that, you know, we know what we're talking about, that I know what I'm talking about, that we mean business and in making films, that like empowering those people to do it will just have them be more likely to come back when they want like high production level stuff, you know, that, you know, we're going to be bringing along like $20,000 to $40,000 worth of camera gear to create like a really beautiful cinematic ad. That's still a huge disparity between like what the client can learn to do in a couple of days.
And not just even camera gear or like tangible worth, is like experience, it's idea, it's
Totally.
vision, it's enthusiasm, is energy, is I don't know, like trying to find things that work for you and in return really work for your client as well. Because if they please your aesthetic taste that
Mm.
has been formed over like years of acquiring visuals,
Yeah.
then it works better than anyone else could ever do. And also, I had this discussion with a friend that he's a photographer as well. And he was more on the idea of like, well, like you got to be careful because with photography, if you teach people how to take pictures of themselves, they won't hire you to take it. I'm like, not sure. And I tried to like justify this with a thing that is very common now and during like coronavirus times, which is there's a lot of YouTube videos that teach you how to make sourdough and bread and like that explain baking and like mother yeast and all of this. Bakeries are not going to run out of business because people now try to do their first sourdough.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there is a difference. It's two different times of your life. Once is it's a Sunday morning and I want to make some fresh bread for my
Yeah.
family. Whether it's good or not, it's the act that is important.
Totally.
The other thing is I'm having a sick dinner. I cooked all of this stuff and I want the best bread to start it with. It's such a different thing.
Mm.
So I don't know. I feel like being secretive with your knowledge and with your skills, like they are the one defining thing for you. I think it's outdated.
Yeah,
So
I think it's hard to match as well. Like, I mean, you say like how many, I think you have close to 10 years industry experience,
yeah,
right? Like
something
you'd be
like that.
similar to me. Like, I mean, I'm at like 8 7 or 8 years in the industry, you know, and it's like, that's hard for someone to match just by like a camera
Yeah.
or like doing a course over a couple of weeks or a month or whatever. Like, sure, that gives you a huge step in the direction of like getting to that point. It might shave off a couple of years even for them to
Yeah.
get to that point, but you still got to put in the hard yards. And I think there's a lot, like so many people out there that look for the shortcuts to like, you know, get, whether they're trying to be like a, you know, a famous chef or you know, a really well-known photographer or filmmaker or whatever. It's like, or a graphic designer. It's like, there's nothing that can beat just putting in the work, I think.
Yeah. So like based on what we just said, how do you think things are going to look like once all of this dies down?
Good question. I think I'd like to throw this back at you in a second, actually, as
Yeah.
well. I think for me, I've already started like thinking about how, you know, we have a very small team. It's like myself, I have an editor that works for me full time. Jeffrey, he's amazing. And then we've got like a couple of like freelance kind of like casual dudes that work with
Yeah.
us as well. So we're a small enough, agile enough team that we can kind of like change, like Felan Films can really change what we do pretty quickly. And one thing that I'm trying to do to kind of adapt to how I think, you know, I think that this like, no big groups of people, not lots of people on sets or like not lots of traveling could be a thing that could happen for a while. So my whole idea behind doing all of these like free framework ads that I've kind of like been helping out a bunch of these businesses at Framework to get them
Yeah.
some content that they can use was that I want to start offering this for businesses where they can actually post physical products to me and we can create remote ads or like
Yeah.
remote pieces of content and then like, you know, send the content back to them. So that was an idea of like how we could be agile in this new landscape, because I think, yeah, it could be some time before we're allowed to have like a group of people on a shoot, you know, but
Yeah.
people could still send stuff to us and I still have all of my gear and all of the means to create really beautiful like pieces for people. So that's how I'm going to try to adapt for at least a little while. And then also just think about diversifying and not just, you know, having all my income come from the one thing. Because that was a huge wake up call for me. It was like, oh crap, like 90% of my income over the next 3-4 months was coming from festivals and events, which guess what, are all cancelled.
Cancelled. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just about being really agile and adapting, you know. It's not going to be survival of the smartest and the fittest. It's going to be survival of like the most agile and like the people who like learn and adapt the most.
Yeah. Well, I think that like part of it is also going to be survival of the most patient, because people are panicking. And when people panic, they take some weird decisions. Like it's not from a I'm judging perspective, but I've seen some creatives go like, what are you doing? what is happening? Like with the struggle of like, just like, hey, I'm alive, I'm here, here's what I'm doing this. I'm like, well, like you're known for like creating beautiful work and stuff, and now it feels like you're rushing to put something out just so you can make sure that no one forgets about you. And I think like it's a good drive to have within you, to kind of go like, hey, I still got to produce things, and I can use my, I don't know, my social media or the people that I know or my clients as accountability. If I keep on being in front of their faces, eventually like they will keep me in mind. But like having to rush for it and like blindly stick anything you can to the wall, I don't know, sometimes I feel like it's not the best way to deal about it with it. But also what the world is going to look like for us, like as an industry and all this, I don't think it's going to change that much. I think that things that are gonna be, as you said, like agile, small groups instead of big productions. They are gonna like thrive in the beginning. And like, as you said, like you have a very small team. I have a ghost team, as in like, I am the team. So like it's always been just like me working by myself, sometime with an assistant, but like that's about it. So in that case, I still think that like once the restrictions kind of start being lifted, I don't see that things are going to be that grim.
I don't
Whereas,
think
like, I
they'll
don't
be
know,
super grim.
immensely big ad productions where you
Yeah.
have 75 people on set on a soundstage, that's going to change.
Yeah.
That's going to
That
be
stuff.
way more complex.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that'll be more complex for a while. I don't think it will be super grim for a while, but I think that these restrictions will probably, some of the restrictions will hang around for some time until
Ah,
they kind of like, get a handle on it. But I think that's a great opportunity for all the small freelance, entrepreneurs that are like, small enough to be agile. Like, you know, like imagine, yeah, like even like looking in our industry, photo and film, it's like all of these like big like gear. I was listening to this podcast the other day where they were talking about like all the big gear rental houses that are like that supply gear for like big film sets and stuff, about how a lot of them might have too big a running costs and go under. So that was like one thing that I didn't even think of. But I think throughout this whole new transition, there could just be a huge exchange of wealth where like, all the little guys are going to probably get like more jobs or like get more of a nibble into like the bigger production jobs and stuff, where like, the big, huge agencies and stuff are going to kind of like, they're already laying off lots of people, or like all these big companies that have huge running costs are
yeah,
going to like, either go under or like have to cut back so far. And so I think that, yeah, change is kind of like, it creates a lot of opportunity as well. And
for sure. Also, I think that one very positive change that this whole situation created is that now everyone has to stop undermining online advertising and online presence and socials and all of this, because there were like, I think, a bunch of businesses that wouldn't invest or wouldn't see their online presence as important as other things, as like traditional marketing, as like just building up contacts. And I always thought like, well, why do you do all of this amazing work and then you have this crappy website and horrible photos of your team? Like how, like your presentation is so lacking in a sense. And to some of the clients that I've spoken to, they said like, well, we don't get any revenue from that. So we don't really want to invest anything there. It's just like, we have to be there because we have to be there. Whereas now I feel like a lot of people, a lot of small businesses, a lot of startups will realize that like, okay, it's not that we want it to happen again or we expect it to happen again, but that's important now. It's a
yeah.
wake up call to go like, hey, you have to be, as we said, agile, and you have to be online and you have to exist. So I think like in that sense, it's going to be quite interesting to see how like the shift in priority is going to go from our clients.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Because I think even now it's like, even for my business, the last few years was a lot of my work was like word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's going to be word of socials or word
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
exactly.
connections online for a little bit. It's not going to be
For
like
sure.
I run into some dude at a bar. That's just not going to happen for a little while, at least. Hopefully
Yeah.
it does. I mean, I love going down to the local for a
Oh,
pint or
we're
something.
all hanging for a pint, like 100%. Like, I don't even care if it's like Carlton Draft or like the worst beer in the world. Just anything where I don't have to drink it out of a can on my couch. Anything, anything.
Yeah, totally.
So we deep dived or dove. I don't know English very well, but
Yeah.
we went straight into like camera and industry and all the things.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you a couple of things. So where are you working from? Where are you calling us from? What's the black background behind you? Is that like, did you makeshift a studio? What is happening?
Yeah, so basically I have, I'll see if I can actually show you. This is where I've been recording. I set up like this black backdrop, and when I record, I've been recording like a lot of my iPhone 101 stuff here.
Yeah.
And then my like mirrorless filmmaker, I've shot the first 4 episodes of like me talking about gear and everything like that. So I've been recording everything here. And I even makeshifted like pulled apart a picture frame and had like a makeshift script. What do you call that? Teleprompter. So then I could like, I'd made makeshift teleprompter where I could like look into the lens and like read from my phone, which was reflected on. So just
nice.
So much stuff, but it looks kind of pro, and I've got my little like backlight set up, but this is literally my parents' dining room.
Yes.
It's my parents' dining room. And
so good.
I've just been makeshifting, like, using what I've got. Like, okay, this window light here. And then like, I bought one tiny light with me to record like a whole course, which has been troubling to say the least. But yeah, basically just like shooting from the folks' living room, and they've allowed me to like take over this space. And
that's amazing. That's great.
It's
well,
good.
like everyone, like I did a few of these videos, and everyone has been, I don't know, setting up at home has been a challenge for everyone. There are people that are more agile in that, and other people like Josh Dycroft, like transported his desk at home, his iMac and everything, and he just like set up everything the same. And he said like, I need this because I need to get into that headspace that I could find a framework, and it's amazing. I've been trying to like stay sane in not having a desk, which is like, it's been a month now, and I'm hanging for that pint, and I'm hanging for that place where I can put the mouse and just use it without being on a ledge, which is incredible, but like, we'll figure it out. I don't know. It's interesting times. Everyone's changing. Everyone's adapting. There is going to be like inevitable changes, but I feel like some good will come out of this. So
totally, man. Totally. So, I think, the whole like finding your space. Like, what are some of the things that you try and do when you're, because I mean, you work from a laptop as well sometimes, right? So,
all
how
the time.
are you trying to like get in the headspace when you?
Oh, I'm failing at it.
You're failing at it.
Oh, so like I could write a book on how good am I at failing at like getting into that headspace and all of this, but I'm giving myself a pass whenever I can't do things. Because I understand the situation. What I'm lacking a lot of is what I thrive on, which is social interaction, which is meeting people, which is new stimulus and inputs that come from where I don't expect them. So I'm left with myself. She's not the worst person I've ever known, but at the same time, it's a very predictable one to me.
Yeah.
So I'm lacking that, like, whoo, didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like I'm doing the best I can, and I feel like after 4 weeks, it's not that I'm starting to get somewhere, but like all of the chaos, it's starting to like maybe dial down a little bit. There is a little less noise and a little bit more signal, but we're still like at not the right levels. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, totally. When we were on that Zoom call the other day, I was on another chat with you, and you said about you felt worried about what was it you said about
my
your
future biographer. Like, ooh, March 2020, man. Like, the global pandemic, the big pandemic of 2020. So, like, what did you accomplish there? Like, we have so much stuff to cover, and I'm like, I don't like working from a ledge. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really good at baking.
Yeah.
What's the?
I think this time is like going to be different for everyone. And I think like some people, like I've really enjoyed it because I haven't, like I said, I haven't had all this like client work that now has opened up this like space in my life where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can do all this stuff that I've been saying I want to do forever. Like I want to record the course. Now I have time to do it. wow, this is amazing. But also at the same time, like, I think it's important to realize that, like, if you're not achieving all the things in the world, like, procrastination is, like, seriously one of the most important parts of the process, I think, because, like, that's when all your ideas happen. And if you're not, like, striving to, like, produce heaps of stuff, or not, or you don't know, like, you don't know what you're going to do next, or, like, you know, you're finding it hard to stay productive and stay switched on, then just, like, don't even, I would, like, just not even, like, some days I just don't even try to do it as well. Like, some days I'll just, like, walk away from the computer and be like, oh, well, not going to happen today. I tried in the morning, that sucked. And then I just, like, it's not going to happen. So I think just, like, allowing yourself to procrastinate is going to be.
Especially because, like, the one thing you don't want to happen is to get burnt out while you're in quarantine and you can't do things. Like, that's the one thing you have to stay clear from. So
that would be good.
I don't know. But, like, we have to wrap this up because you and I can talk for hours.
Yeah,
not everyone will listen to us talking for hours.
We've definitely gone past the click out point for a couple of people, I think.
This is like the seventh, like, ad bit from YouTube, you know, like it's long enough that, like, people will have, like, learned to buy things. But thank you so much for being with us, and I will see you soon. Hopefully as soon as possible, like, once all of this is over.
Yeah, totally. I mean, hopefully if I get to come back to Melbourne, if they have flights for me to come back to Melbourne in the next kind of, like, month, I might come back and we could go for a walk 1.5 meters apart. Is that a thing that you're allowed to do, or are you not allowed to do that?
Well, like, technically at the moment, you're still not allowed to, like, be outside if not for exercise or going to work, where you can't do work from home.
What if we happen to be exercising in the same place?
Yeah, exactly. You and I, like, we look exactly like the people, like, oh, yes, they have been exercising together forever. You can clearly see that. Look at how, like, they're matching suits. Now we're like, but I think,
put
like,
activewear on and pass for sure.
Yeah.
We just got to wear the activewear.
With a GoPro on our heads, like a camera strapped to our chest, like a couple lenses. No, but I'm sure, like, in a month's time, things are going to be different. So I think we can go for that walk and start creating some stuff.
Let's do it, man.
Thank you so much for having been with us here at the check-in, and take care. Say hi to Tasmania.
I will. See ya.